Patch 14.17 was a huge patch for supports and the game in general. Here's my support solo queue tier list for this patch. There's been a giant shift in the meta due to individual champion nerfs and the death of Warmogs. Supports that had a hard time dealing with champions that abuse Warmogs are finally back again. We are shifting more towards a ranged support and hook meta as a result. I usually cover all champions and being above, but I want to get this video out sooner, so I'm only covering specific champions, but I'll start with the general take on the B tier. All the champs I have in the B tier are either really strong but need a certain comp to be great, or they are just good in general. For example, champions like Braum, Lulu, or Renata can all be S tier champions with the right conditions, but they can also be really useless with the wrong conditions. For the latter example, I feel like a champion like Zilean is going to be a generally good pick overall, but there are a lot of better champions you can play. The one champion in the B tier I want to go over is Seraphine, since she just got nerfed. In this patch, Seraphine's W got a huge nerf with her base shield decreased and her cooldown increased. This was genuinely a great nerf because she was the most overtuned support last patch, but now she's pretty balanced. Seraphine is a nice in-between of an enchanter and a mage and will generally always be a good pick in most drafts. Kicking off the A tier, we have Blitzcrank. He got some pretty big nerfs in 14.9 and 14.12, which made him struggle for a bit, but after the Warmogs nerfs, I believe he jumps up to the A tier. Due to the meta shifting away from engaged supports to ranged supports, Blitzcrank will struggle less in those terrible matchups and will have more opportunities to hard counter lane. The thing that makes Blitzcrank so great is that he can miss hooks all game, but only needs to land one on a carry in the late game to win the game. I feel like Rakan was struggling pretty hard during Warmogs meta, but he is back to the A tier after the Warmogs nerf. He had a rough time because a lot of the engaged supports had infinite sustain while being twice as tanky as Rakan. One of his strengths lies in his ability to heal up and re-enter fights, but that was countered by Warmogs because all engaged supports were able to do that. Now in 14.17, he is back to being one of the few engaged supports that can do this, and I believe he is very strong again. Soraka was also struggling hard for most of the split due to AP junglers and Warmogs being meta. Because of the combination of damage over time and Oblivion Orb, optimal healing reduction was very common every game. As for Warmogs, Soraka already struggled against lots of engage and hook champs, so with both of those being meta, she was very weak. But now that the meta is shifting away from those things, Soraka is very strong again. She can fit into a lot of comps, is a lane bully, and if she gets to scale, she can solo carry games. Even after receiving nerfs in 14.15 and having Warmogs nerfed, Leona is still an insane champion. I said earlier that Warmogs is dead on supports, but Leona is the exception because she uses health very efficiently due to her resistances from her W. Riot is planning to nerf her again next patch, so they definitely want to slowly balance her out, but she is currently still strong. Leona is a great support that provides lots of lockdown and crowd control while being one of the most tankiest supports in the game. Taric is very similar to the B tier champs where he becomes good with the right setup, but I have him higher because in the matchups that he wins very hard. He pretty much wins in all engage and hook matchups, and if he's put into an enemy team comp where he can auto a lot and he'll 1v9. Taric has been OP for honestly a lot of seasons, but no one really plays him, so he is just never getting nerfed. He is a terrible blind pick because against range he can become useless, so I'd only recommend picking him as a counter. Poppy is one of the strongest supports in the game that is somewhat similar to Taric in that she hard counters her counters but has trouble against ranged champions. I have Poppy placed higher than Taric because I feel like she is a better blind as she can be flexed into other roles, and every team comp in season 14 has a champion with a dash. I think the base damage on her abilities are a little too high because it feels illegal that you're able to kill someone if you land an E and full combo. The only reason why I don't have her in S tier is because a lot of the S tier range champs are very good into her. Starting off S, we have Brad. Brad has instantly jumped up to S this patch because a lot of the champions that counter him in lane are out of meta after the Warmogs nerfs. He is one of those champions that has a weaker laning phase, but if he can go out even or ahead, he can 1v9. Brad is generally always good throughout the season. He usually has a build every patch in the season that's just OP that shoots him up to S, but in this case it's not a build but more of a matchup favored patch. Janna is usually always an S tier champ despite any meta because if engaged supports are strong, she is a natural counter, and if enchanters are strong, she will benefit because, well, she's an enchanter. The only class that really countered her hard were support mages, but Riot gutted them out of the support role on purpose, so Janna will always be high tier. She is a lot better this patch than last patch because enchanter Senna and guardian Seraphine hard counter her, but with those champs being weaker, there are less things stopping her now. Generally, Janna isn't a great blind pick, but she's currently so strong that it's fine to do so now. I usually have Thresh in high tier in most of my tier lists because his kit is everything you can ask for in a support. All of Thresh's abilities can be used aggressively or defensively, and because of that, if you play him well, he can find an answer in most situations. He is doing well this meta because he counters a lot of the ranged supports and does well into a lot of engaged champs. Thresh is probably one of the best blind picks because of how versatile his kit is and overall just a great champion. Nami received some very unneeded buffs way back in 14.11 and she has been S tier ever since. She is the best blind pick enchanter because her kit has a lot of tools to deal with a lot of different champions and she synergizes synergizes well with almost anyone. As a high-ranked Nami player, the thing that makes her so broken is how little mana it costs for how much she can heal. Her mana costs were adjusted in 14.11, but that's what made her really overtuned. Nami is probably due for nerf soon because she is very popular and has a high win rate ever since her buffs. Rell was pretty heavily affected by the Warmog's nerfs because it was one of her core items, but despite that, she is still the best engaged support. She is strong due to her explosiveness and high kill pressure in lane. Rell has bad matchups but can overcome all of them with Q flash. The thing that differentiates her from Leona is that she has more answers for terrible matchups and has more potential for bigger plays in teamfights. Rell is not as tanky but makes up for it with her utility and speed. Senna was changed in 14.16 so that her lethality scaling was replaced with higher AP and AD ratios on most of her abilities. Riot really overshot the numbers and the new Senna was way too overtuned, so in 14.17 she got some adjustments, but she is still OP. When the changes dropped, I said Senna's Enchanter build was overrated, but guys, I was wrong. I still stand by my take that the Enchanter build doesn't really make sense for her playstyle, but the numbers for it was just too insane. For the last patch, the Enchanter build was very broken and now it's okay. I think her Cleaver build is her current best build, but overall Senna is one of the best champions to climb with. If you want to go the Cleaver build, check out my Jack of all trades build for her. I promise you will understand why she's OP after you play it. Finally, at the top, we have Pyke. He just got nerfed in 14.17 where they lowered his base armor, but he is still mega broken. He is just the perfect solo queue champion to climb with because his sink or swim playstyle snowballs games very fast. He is gated by how hard he is to play, but a good Pyke can feel impossible to play against. Personally, Pyke has been my permaban for a couple of years now because I think he is one of the most broken and unforgiving champs in the game. That concludes my tier list for 14.17. An important reminder that tier lists don't matter too much in lower ranks, and you'll find more success in climbing if you stick to a small champ pool instead of playing what's OP. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck on your end of split climb.